Andrew Tate has said in the past that bodybuilders are like fighters who can't fight.
Bodybuilders are losers. The reason bodybuilders are losers is not because bodybuilding is easy. Bodybuilding is actually extremely hard. The reason bodybuilders are losers is because they don't want to be bodybuilders. Every bodybuilder I've ever met wants to be a fighter, but they haven't got the balls to be a fighter. So instead they think, well, I want to look as mean as possible, and then they end up bodybuilding. All their time and effort and energy into the gym to try and make sure no one ever starts a fight on them because they're absolute pussies. All bodybuilders are complete cowards. But yeah, that's my basic point on bodybuilders. They're all cowards, and that's the reality. Andrew Tate said so. Any bodybuilder on here who disagrees with me, if you really want to make a point of it, let's get in the cage, you and me, and I'll whoop your ass.
They build all these muscles just to make themselves look good, just to puff up their chest, but when it comes down to it, they can't actually fight and they always lose their battles. The problem with this idea is that I just disagree with the entire premise of it. Bodybuilders don't go to the gym because they want to fight people. If they wanted to fight people, if their primary goal was to fight people, then they would just go and learn how to fight. Bodybuilders and people in general who bodybuild, they bodybuild because they think it looks good, it makes them feel good, it makes them feel really good, and it's a sign of physical manifestation of excellence, I should say. It's sort of the closest thing we have to like being a superhero and having superpowers, right? Like when you think of superheroes, it's like, okay, they have like super strength. When you bodybuild, first of all, you look really strong and you get really strong, and super strength is like one of the superpowers, right? So you sort of feel like you're a superhero and that you're just on a tier above everyone else in terms of physical strength and physical aesthetics. Now, according to many people, pride is a sin, and within pride, there's vanity. And this is what people often accuse bodybuilders of being. They accuse them of being vain because they just care about the show muscles, right? We see people in the mirror posing and obsessing over every striation of their muscle, and we think this guy's just completely vain. He's just a completely vacuous, superficial person. Now, I do agree that at a certain point, bodybuilding can become vanity, but I don't think that it is inherent to the art, it's inherent to, bodybuilding is vain in and of itself. Now, I don't think that I really need to, but I guess I will, but physical beauty isn't just nothing, right? It is something. It isn't inconsequential, it isn't just there, it's actually important. Physical beauty is actually important. If you go back to like ancient philosophers, they've been talking about how beauty is what inspires us and whatnot. Even if you go back to ancient Greek times, they've been admiring people's physiques, admiring people's strength for a very long time. Like physical beauty and physical strength. I believe, I forget who it was, Socrates, I believe. It's a shame for a man to grow old without understanding the beauty in which his body is capable of, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. It's actually our ability to understand and really appreciate beauty is one of the things, at least, that makes us separate from animals. Now, let me ask, you don't climb a mountain and look down upon the forest and the trees and think, wow, this view is extremely hollow. No, you think, wow, this view is extremely magnificent. It's amazing. When I do that, I get a sort of sensation throughout my entire body. Like my entire body just like starts tingling at like just how beautiful and magnificent what I'm looking at really is. I don't know about you guys, but like, that's just how I feel. Beauty is something to be admired. It's something to be aspired to. It doesn't just like, it also makes you feel inspired to do something with your life. And I think the same thing goes for bodybuilding, honestly. Bodybuilding inspires us. We see people's physiques and we're inspired to become better people. Now, again, there is a point, obviously, where it becomes vanity, but I just really don't think that it is inherent to the art. Bodybuilding is also the physical manifestation of personal development. The tangible results you get from bodybuilding separate it from all other forms of self-improvement. It's also like the most visual form of self-improvement. In the book Everything is Bad for You by Steven Johnson, he talks about how video games are a sort of effortful progression. We like to think that video games are a sort of instant pleasure, but at least back in like the early 2000s when this book was made, a lot of video games are very slow and methodical progression. You only really get progression in video games after you have gone through long, tedious efforts to actually earn it. He says in the book that you'll often hear video games included in the list of debased instant gratifications that abound our culture, right up there with raunchy music and fast food. But compared to most forms of popular entertainment, games turn out to be all about delayed gratification. And I think bodybuilding is much the same. Seeing the progress you make in the gym after months and months of going to the gym taps into that same sort of delayed gratification. It feels very similar to playing video games. And if you've watched my previous channel, you know I used to play a lot of video games. I still do, but not as much anymore. Unlike in most areas of life where your efforts aren't exactly rewarded, or at least aren't immediately rewarded, video games and bodybuilding have your efforts almost immediately rewarded. And with video games and bodybuilding, your efforts are always guaranteed to some extent. The results of your effort are concomitant to the amount of work that you put in to get there. Results that you'll be satisfied for a very long time. Bodybuilding and video games play into that innate desire we have to work for something and get those results approved of. That way we one day feel gratified for the work that we put in. Now, many of you may argue, Tate may even argue, that fighting is also a form of self-improvement, and that's actually true. But the results aren't nearly as clear-cut, in my opinion. Like, I could read a book, and I could read several books and become a smarter, more interesting, just more intelligent person, but it isn't immediately obvious to anyone who just looks at me. Like, it's not like my brain just gets, like my head just gets bigger as I'm reading. That'd be kind of cool, also kind of freaky, but it's not as though you're literally changing yourself, like physically changing yourself when you're reading, right? You don't really notice the results of your education until you get into some sort of long form conversation with someone about a specific topic, or I guess maybe just any topic, but you don't really notice it unless you're in a specific scenario. Whereas if you are just muscular, as long as you're not wearing a winter jacket, everyone can tell that you work out. In my opinion, bodybuilding is a manifestation of physical perfection. You grow your body and grow your muscles as if you're sculpting a marble sculpture. Everything is intricately woven and carefully cut. Every feathering in your chest, every vein in your bicep, every striation in your shoulder, you know that you worked for that. The sort of 90s, 80s era of bodybuilding, dubbed the golden era, is largely what I'm talking about. If you listen to people like Frank Zane, this is how they speak about bodybuilding. Now, even if you don't go that far, there still is the idea that everything that you're doing in bodybuilding is something that you've earned, right? Like every pound that you gain and every pound of muscle that you gain, every pound of fat that you lose, it's like, yeah, I earned that. I did that. No one else could do that besides me. You look at your before and your after photos and you understand that, like, wait, like I did that. I have control over my life. Now, I'm sure some people may object to this by saying, okay, but some people have better genetics, right? Yes, but it's not as though these people were born with, were breastfed creatine. It's not as though there was protein powder being fed to them through the placenta. Like, these people can improve, is what I'm trying to say. Even if you're a muscle freak, you always can improve. As long as you haven't worked out for 10 years, if you start working out, you will see improvement, no matter how genetically gifted you are. In fact, if you're genetically gifted, it probably accentuate it more. So, and finally, practically speaking, if you are a bodybuilder and you're just like 30 pounds heavier than everyone else you meet, that will actually help you in a fight though. Like he's talking about street fights in this clip. It actually will help you with a street fight. I mean, like, I'm no expert fighter, but I do know that generally the bigger person is going to win a street fight. Like, just look at the Mountain versus, Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is a much better fighter, but, you know, if it came to a street fight, battle to the death, the Mountain's gonna kill Conor McGregor. I'm sorry. And not to mention, if you look more intimidating, people are just less likely to start a fight with you anyway. So you kind of win the fight before it even starts. So not only does it literally help you in fights, but like you kind of win the fight before it even starts anyways. And to be fair, Tate does mention this, but being a conflict deterrent isn't nothing. Like, this is military tactics 101. You gotta have some kind of conflict deterrent. When America bombed Japan the second time, they said that they had more nuclear weapons, but they didn't actually have more nuclear weapons, but that deterrent was enough to make them surrender. Now, Tate did say that it's deceptive and it gives you a false sense of security. And I actually do believe that is a decent point, right? If you actually do get into a fight and you're not significantly bigger than them and you don't know how to fight, but you just like look like you're big and you know how to fight, then that will actually hamper you. But this isn't an argument against bodybuilding. It's more so an argument for fighting, right? That everyone should know how to fight. In which case, yeah, I mean, I agree with that. People should learn how to fight. Okay. But again, that isn't actually the point of bodybuilding. Regardless though, I do believe that we should be holistic athletes. We should, I'm speaking to myself with this when I say this as well, but we should know how to, like, generally how to do some basic fighting moves. Just if you're a man in general, I think. So I do agree with him on that, actually. Getting more muscle does hurt you in a fight, but it doesn't hurt you to such a significant point that it's going to hinder your performance against the average person who tries to jump you or anything like that. And this is another problem, I think, with Tate's rhetoric, is that he just thinks that everyone is in some dangerous neighborhood where we're always, like, gonna get jumped and gonna try and fight people. Look, I'm in a pretty privileged position in that I've never really been in a fight, but yeah, that's also kind of the point, right? Like, I've never been in a fight, never been in a place where I need to fight. He brings up a similar point when he talks about, going out with headphones.
When you put your headphones in and you're walking down the street, listening to your music, you are a fucking target. Now, you may live in a safe area, but if you're watching this from England, you don't live in a safe place. People get stabbed there all the fucking time. You are losing one of your most important sensory perceptions. I'll tell you something, man. I've been jumped 4 times. And every time I was jumped, I didn't see it coming, but I heard it coming. You're walking and you hear those footsteps coming up behind you. You're like, whoa, that's your chance. That's all you got. That's your chance to not fucking die. And instead of doing that, you want to listen to Coldplay in your fucking ears like a little dickhead. Every time I see someone with their fucking earphones on, just sitting there with their earphones on, it's garbage. It's insanity. You wouldn't walk through life blind. Why are you walking through life deaf? Is your music so important?
It's like, yeah, if you go out with headphones, then you're not going to be able to hear when someone's going to jump you. It's like, okay, you've been jumped 4 times. You said in the video that you've been jumped 4 times. I've been jumped 0 times, and I walk around with headphones. I mean, not all the time, not most of the time, but, like, sometimes. So it would seem to me that it isn't exactly the headphones that is the common denominator. That's the problem, actually. The common denominator, I think, is that you're just in a dangerous place. So I think that's actually the real problem here. But, I actually do agree that there is a lot of merit into fighting, and I think that bodybuilders definitely should learn how to fight. So there is some agreement with him there. I think more accurately, it's like Andrew Tate doesn't understand bodybuilding, more so that he's, like, explicitly wrong about bodybuilding. Although he kind of is wrong about bodybuilding. I'll still put that in the title. He actually kind of is wrong about bodybuilding, but I suppose you could argue that he's just misunderstanding the point of it. So yeah, overall, Andrew Tate is wrong about bodybuilding. This is why. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll catch you all next time. Peace.